bless our hearts. Hope does spring eternal, doesn't it? Let's run over to line one and see what's happening. Welcome aboard.
Hello.
Hello.
This is Mark Taylor-Canfield. I'm actually a regular contributor to Mike's show, and I have talked to you on your show.
We have,
before.
Mark. We have indeed. Welcome.
Yes. Happy New Year to you.
And to you as well.
I wanted to give you a quick sort of rundown on what's happening in Seattle. I don't know if most folks around the country know this, but the city of Seattle, and also Martin Luther King Jr. County, which is the county that Seattle is located in, have both declared a civil state of emergency due to the increase in homelessness in this area. It's been a major, major problem. There are tent cities popping up all over the city, which I'm referring to now as economic refugee camps.
Well, that was going to be my question, Mark. Are these people who have simply lost their homes in Seattle, or are they people who have come to Seattle seeking hope, refuge, life?
Well, there are two different things going on. One, there is what I also call an IT gold rush. I write articles at the Capitol Hill Times here, and I've been talking about the lack of affordable housing, and Seattle is has the fastest increasing rent in the country now. So, yes, there are a lot of people moving to the area. Rumors are that Amazon wants to hire, thousands and thousands of new employees. I don't think they can even keep up with demand right now. But the problem is that along with a lot of this corporate influx into the area, there's an increase in the property values. Seattle has more cranes than any other city in the country per capita right now. It's just insane. Everywhere you look, we call the construction crane now the official bird of Seattle because they're just everywhere. So you have these people moving here for the IT jobs, and the population increase is reaching the levels that took place here during the Yukon Gold Rush. So that's why I refer to it.
Oh my God!
As it's just amazing. I've never seen a city change so fast in such a short period of time. It's just incredible. Just within the last year or so, the rents and the cost of living have just gone through the roof here. So, yes, it's economic dislocation. It's high rents, high cost of living, even with the $15 an hour minimum wage, which Seattle was able to pass, being spearheaded by our socialist city council member, Shama Sawan, who was reelected, by the way, this last November. But even with the $15 an hour minimum wage, which is slowly being phased in, the state legislature has a statewide ban on any form of rent control. So Seattle, even if it wanted to pass rent control, does not have the authority in the state of Washington. So it's a very interesting place to live right now, Bob. We also have this other situation.
Okay, so stand by, and we'll come back to you out of the break. And when we left for the break, we were talking to Mark out in Seattle. Okay, well, I particularly wanted to ask you a couple of questions about topic number one, namely the fact that rents are going through the roof, and the cost of living is, well, that has a profound effect on the cost of living. And it's even if it's an industry that we find somewhat respectable like IT, it's still a function of the essential boom and bust nature of unrestrained capitalism. Because what you're talking about in Seattle is the same thing that's going on down in the Bay Area, and it's the same thing that 4 or 5 years ago was going on out in Williston, North Dakota, where a trailer out on some vast expanse of land could go for God only knows how much money for some oil field worker. Is there a remedy to it? How do you, if you've got people living in tent cities in Seattle, how is that even sustainable?
Well, it's not, and that's why there's a civil emergency. And just to clarify from your original question, yes, the homelessness is mostly people who have already been living here. It's not the folks that are moving into Seattle. Most of them are getting pretty good tech jobs or professional jobs. So it's the folks that have lived here maybe lived in a building for 35 years, retired there, and then one day their rent goes up to $4,000 a month.
Right,
So
exactly. Yes.
People with 2 jobs living in a van with their family. There's an increase in the working poor, working homeless, where, yes, maybe you have employment, but it doesn't keep up with the cost of renting in Seattle. So, and also, directly to the point you just made, Seattle itself has always been a boom or bust city ever since the days of the gold rush. There was a famous saying here in the 70s when Boeing laid off thousands of workers, "Will the last person to leave Seattle please turn out the lights?" Because people really thought that was the end of the city. Well, no, we have these .com booms and busts. We have real estate booms and busts. Now we have the IT boom. And
rest assured, there will be an IT bust.
Yes, I was just going to say, not only is the homelessness issue a part of it, there will eventually be a bust. And that's just, like you said, it's the nature of the business cycle. And I know rent control is an issue that people have been talking about as one way to alleviate that. But yeah, it just seems to be the nature of the system. In my latest article, the way I put it was Seattle is a victim of its own success. Because yes, we've attracted all of this corporate investment. Amazon, Google, Microsoft has been here for a long time. Even, Expedia has moved their headquarters here. So there's so much going on in Seattle in terms of corporate development. But the result is that real estate prices have gone through the roof. So it's made it unaffordable for people who have lived and worked here all their lives, sent their kids to school here. Yeah, it's a tough situation. So I'm not sure that in cities like New York and San Francisco, they've tried to alleviate the problem with some forms of rent control. But as I said, that's not possible in the city of Seattle because of the prohibition by the state legislature. Also, I wanted to throw this at you too. The state legislature is currently being fined by the Washington State Supreme Court $100,000 per day for violating our own state constitution by failing to adequately fund public education. So we have a huge problem here. We have the school levy system to raise money for the local school districts. We've got, teachers starting crowdsourced funding campaigns to bring supplies into the classroom. And we have a governor and a state legislature who refuse to call a special session or move on this issue. Meanwhile, the state Supreme Court is saying that our own Washington State legislature is in contempt of court.
Well, let me ask you this, Mark.
There's a problem there too.
That certainly has a local flavor, but there's nowhere in this country that doesn't have some sort of education problem, some sort of infrastructure problem. Not to just make everybody go, oh no, but doesn't some of this feel like the collapse of empire?
Well, empires are very, very expensive. I think the Romans learned that, right? And I've heard this comment before, all this money being frittered away on an empire while, we're not taking care of our veterans, the poor, children in public schools here, healthcare. It's just a shame. I think what most Americans don't realize is just how low the United States is rated on some major issues in terms of infant mortality rates. We are considered 47th in the world in terms of press freedom by Reporters Without Borders. So the propaganda just sort of, lulls everyone into this hypnotic trance of believing that, everything is great. It's all wonderful and life is great in America. Well, for a lot of people in Seattle, it hasn't been so great lately, even though their neighbors are making wads and wads of cash. So economic inequality is the major theme. Even our mayor gave that as the main theme of his State of the City address this year.
Well, Mark, it's been awfully good hearing from you, and I hope we'll talk again soon. I think that issue is going to be the defining issue for whether or not Bernie Sanders can succeed, among other things. This is the Malloy Program. We'll be back after the break. I'm Bob Kincaid.
Hi, Truth Seekers.